I swear I will make you happy for the rest of your life. Will you please marry me?
Thank you. Yes, I can't wait.
My name is Sosuke Atsuage. I'm a 48-year-old salaryman. Recently, my beloved daughter Naomi got engaged and she'll be getting married soon. She didn't even tell us that she had a boyfriend. How did this happen all so fast? And, you know, in times like these, the dad always finds out last.
Honey, Naomi says that she's going to bring her fiancé over to meet us.
What?
Apparently, he is her senior colleague from work. Here's a photo.
He's quite handsome.
I figured you would be free this weekend, so I hope you don't mind that I went ahead and agreed to dinner together.
Sure. Did you know about this, Masanomi?
Well, yeah.
Why is the father always the last to find out about these things? Why? Do you not like me? Naomi!
Dad, I think that's exactly the reason.
What?
Don't you think it's time you let go of your daughter?
That's right. I'll be the first to admit that I'm obsessed with my children. It's not like I particularly love my daughter or that I treat her any different from my son. I also love my son, Masanomi. Both of my kids, I love them both. But maybe I showed a little bit too much, and I also recognize that they can get very annoyed with me. So I think it was my own fault that they couldn't talk to me about their partners or relationships. I swallowed my own tears and decided to have a drink alone at home next to my plants and my cat Fuchi.
Well, we all know that that's just your kindness, and that it all comes from your deep love for your family.
Oh, Miharu.
I hope you'll play the part of a dignified father that day.
How can I? That's the furthest type of father from what I am.
I'm counting on you.
Even still, I can't believe that Naomi is getting married already. I feel like I can remember my own wedding like it was yesterday. Time truly does fly, and if I close my eyes, the day that my children were born, the day they first laughed, the day they first spoke, the day they took their first steps, all the memories came flooding back. It wasn't even my daughter's wedding yet, and I was already feeling fully sentimental. The day of, I don't know if I'll be able to hold back the tears.
I doubt it.
Between my two children, my daughter Naomi was more similar to me, emotional with lots of ups and downs. She's clumsy and gets hurt easily, and for better or for worse, she trusts people and is therefore easily deceived. This not-so-little girl of mine is now about to get married. This goes without saying, but I gotta take a close, hard look at her partner. Leading up to our meeting, for some silly reason, I started training for it.
Well, there's no harm in building your muscles at any rate. I'm about to head to the house with my fiancé. How is Dad? He's not mad that I didn't tell him, is he? He isn't mad. He was a little sad about it, though. Because I felt like it would become a big deal, just talking to him about dating or breaking up. That's why I decided to wait to say anything until it was for sure. I hope Dad will forgive me. That all depends on you and your fiancé. We can't wait to meet him.
They're here! What do I do, Masanomi?
Dad, come on, deep breaths. Everything is going to be fine. If anything, I'm sure he's 100 times more nervous than you are.
You're right. All right.
I'm home, Dad. Masanomi.
Welcome back. Come on now, get inside.
Hey, is Dad actually mad at me?
Who knows? I think he's just so nervous that he can't even get the words out, but I'm not gonna say anything.
Nice to meet you all. I have the pleasure of dating your daughter Naomi. My name is Ainasuke Fukaya. Whoa. Whoa? Welcome. I'm her father, Sasuke. Here, come on in.
He was definitely taken aback by how good-looking this guy is.
He's so good-looking. Why is he so good-looking? How? Okay, calm down. Dignified father, dignified father. I was already struggling to maintain the dignified father persona when the strongest warrior came from behind to save me.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming all this way and welcome. I'm Naomi's mother, Miharu.
The head of our family is not me, but my wife and matriarch Miharu. Miharu is technically 2 years older than me, but not only that, as a person she's far more superior, and she has a much bigger presence, and for some reason her words are more effective. And more than anything, Miharu's ability to see right through people always hit the nail on the head with outstanding accuracy.
Mom, this is Mr. Ainasuke Fukaya, the man I've been dating.
Miss Miharu, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Ainasuke Fukaya.
Mom? Oh, it's nothing. Please come in and make yourself at home.
Mr. Fukaya, we heard that you're an editor at Rookie Publishers. Is that right?
Yes, I'm mainly in charge of comics such as Mr. Usumaru or Mr. Agajiro. I work as their chief editor.
That's amazing! They're all very popular anime authors and cartoonists. You must be an exceptional editor.
Even in the company, there are so many people who look up to Mr. Fukaya.
But someone this good looking and good at their job? It's hard to believe that you were single all this time.
Hey, Masanomi!
Well, I was always so invested in my work my whole life, and to be honest, I've always been quite shy around women too. I was always a full-on anime nerd, and I pretty much went on to become an editor that way. Interesting.
You haven't messed around much with women? Nowadays, that seems like a godlike character straight out of an anime.
Thank you very much. I was very lucky to meet such a lovely woman like Naomi that I feel like it's a reward for my darkest days.
As we spoke to him, he seemed like a really great person. Plus, he was in charge of many popular authors at a major publishing company, so his salary must have also been pretty up there. He seemed like a respectable person even in his professional life, and I felt relieved that my daughter was able to meet such a great person. Masanomi seemed to feel the same way as I was, and we were both impressed. However, one person had a clouded look on their face.
Well, let's call it a day, shall we? If you really are planning on getting married, then we will also need to meet Mr. Fukaya's parents and pay our respects as well. Let's plan for another opportunity to meet.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you very much for the warm welcome today.
I'll be in touch.
Miharu, I can't imagine this, but...
I feel very sorry to Naomi, but that person is no good. Amongst all the people I've ever met in my life, he's the worst kind.
What?
Well, his laugh did seem a little fake, but is he that bad?
It's hard to put into words, but that person had the darkest aura I've ever seen.
My wife, Miharu, was able to see things that most normal humans like me couldn't. I'll never forget the day that I met her.
You'll be transferring from your current company sometime soon.
What? But I only recently joined this company.
You're going to be headhunted soon by a trading company that's still small now, but you should definitely take the job there.
Sure. It was on a rainy day when I first met Miharu. I stopped into the cafe that she owned to get out of the rain, and out of nowhere she said that to me. In reality, I was scouted by a much smaller company than the one I was working for at the time as a salesman. I had met with them once before as a client, and from there they had an interest in me and had decided to recruit me. My salary was going to decrease, and honestly it was a big gamble, but her word stuck with me and I ended up taking the job. In the end, that company only continued to grow from there and has become one of Japan's top trading companies. Because I joined early on and my work was praised, I was promoted and became the division manager. During that time, I frequented Miharu's cafe and spoke to her all about all kinds of things, and eventually...
I think that I would find happiness if I married you.
What?
If you'd like, please take me as your wife.
What? Wait, yes. And just like that, without even dating, she proposed to me. And we got married. Of course, I already had a crush on her, but I never would have imagined that would lead to a marriage. Even after we got married, Miharu would listen to various people's problems and offer them advice based on this unexplainable power that she had. She was famously around this town, but she refuses to acknowledge herself as anything other than just a cafe manager. Anyway, long story short, her predictions were always without fail correct. And that's why Naomi's #1 objective of bringing her fiancé to her house was not just to introduce him to us, but rather to see her mother Miharu's reaction. However, at this rate, alright, I'll look into it.
Sasuke.
Don't worry, I've got a lot of connections around here too. I'll ask someone I know at the publishing company and I'll look into his reputation. We can't ignore anything that you say, Miharu.
Thank you. That would be great.
And so, my days as a makeshift investigator were off to a start. There was a possibility that Miharu's predictions were wrong too, or so I had a slight hope that that might be the case. But, my goodness, it was even worse than I could have imagined as the bad news came flooding in. First of all, this guy was once married already. I heard this directly from an editor that I already know, and so there's no mistake about it. On top of that, they only got divorced less than half a year ago. Rumor has it that that was because of domestic violence against his wife, as well as his affairs with 2 other women at the time. Apparently, it didn't make its way to court because of a very large amount of settlement fees and hush money. As a result of that, he must have been very tight on money because my source told me that he had already asked to borrow some cash and had loaned him $500 hours already. I decided to ask my friend's friend, who was a detective, to do more thorough investigation. They found out that he has another girlfriend that he's dating right now, and that she's the daughter of a doctor and comes from a very wealthy family. If he were to marry her, he'd be set for life, but for some reason he hasn't done so. My guess is that if she comes from a good family, then he knows that they would probably definitely look into his past. And the detective says that he's probably just messing around with her so he can have her pay for him.
I looked into a few things too, Dad.
Oh? Did you find anything?
When it comes to this, I think it's best if we ask Naomi directly. Although this is about the person she's in love with, so she's willing to marry him, so I don't know if she'll listen.
That's true. Once she believes in something, she takes it and runs with it, just like her dad. Masanomi may be young, but he also has a lot of connections. It may seem like he's brought information that would be more able to convince her to call off the wedding. With both of our investigations leading to the same results, we called Naomi and opened an emergency family meeting.
I saw the look on Mom's face, and I didn't want to believe it, but is there something wrong with Mr. Fukaya?
Look, Naomi, I want you to listen carefully to what we're about to tell you. One by one, we told Naomi everything that we found out about Mr. Fukaya. Her face sank more and more, and by the end she was crying hysterically. I can't blame her, though.
It's a lie! It's all a lie! I've never heard any stories about him like that, not even within the company.
You're still a new hire at that company, and maybe he's done a good job of hiding it at work. To be fair, I only heard about his bad reputation from someone at a different publishing company.
I can't believe any of this. Inosuke, there's no way!
Well then, Naomi, do you want to try meeting his ex-wife?
What?
No matter how much we tell you, you're not gonna believe us. Will you? This is the fastest way.
Naomi fell silent, but nodded her head to Masanomi's final request. Hearing it from one person directly would make things clear once and for all.
Actually, we already asked Mom, and she's gotten her to agree to come over to our house.
That was fast.
Obviously, whether Naomi gets married or not is on the line here. The sooner the better, even by one day.
That's true. Masanomi really does love his sister, doesn't he? Just as Masanomi said, Miharu walked into the door with Mr. Fukaya's supposed ex-wife. The ex-wife was still in a cast with bandages around her arms and legs, and it was obvious that she hadn't healed from the physical abuse that she endured. Naomi stared at her in disbelief, unable to talk. She didn't have to, because the woman started to tell about her life married to Mr. Fukaya. What she proceeded to tell us was even worse than what we had heard. 500 times our imagination and an overflowing boiling pot. When they first got married, Mr. Fukaya was still nice, but she soon discovered that he was cheating on her. She confronted him about it, but he instead snapped back at her, and from that day started an everyday cycle of physical and emotional torture. On top of that, she was basically being held hostage. She wasn't allowed to go to work, and he made sure that she wasn't able to get in contact with anybody. He sexually abused her almost every day as well, and due to the stress, she became anorexic and her period stopped coming. To this day, she said her period hasn't come back. However, thankfully, someone from her previous workplace found it suspicious and contacted her parents, who along with her siblings barged into their house and everything came to light. By the time the ex-wife finished speaking, Naomi was sobbing and couldn't say a word. My wife held her silently in her arms as she continued to cry. Then the ex-wife concluded with these words.
Do not, for 1 second, be fooled by that man's fake kindness.
She looked intently at Naomi with the most serious look on her face. I'm sure anyone would have been woken up after hearing all that directly from the victim. As a human, as a fellow woman, to see firsthand the hell of being married to that man must have been more clear than seeing flames themselves.
Dad, Masanomi, I'm so sorry for not believing you. I will rethink getting married to him.
Yeah, I think that would be for the best. You should think about it, and I'm sure that you'll be able to find your happiness that way.
But I loved him! I really loved him!
Naomi spent the rest of the day in tears, endlessly talking about how much she loved Mr. Fukaya, what a kind and wonderful person he was. She was sobbing like a broken record. In the end, Miharu said to her,
Everything you just said, I wrote it all down on this paper. Let's go burn this now.
What?
Your memories of him, your feelings about him, all of it. We're going to burn it and you're going to forget about it. Think of this as the funeral for the Inosuke Fukaya that you knew. Yes.
We all went outside and we watched as Naomi took the letter from her mother's hands and set a lighter to the paper. It burned in an instant as the ashes flew up and away into the sky.
Oh, I can meet a good person next. You will, just like your father and I found each other.
A few days later, Naomi called us to tell her that she would go talk to Mr. Fukaya and call off the engagement. However, he's a scumbag who didn't see women as women, or ever humans for that matter. Masanomi and I feared for Naomi's safety, and since they were going to have a discussion at Mr. Fukaya's place, we decided to keep watch downstairs of his apartment. Then, not even 10 minutes into the conversation, Naomi! We heard Naomi's screams and we ran upstairs as we kicked down the door and barged in. There we saw Inosuke with his hands tightly gripped around Naomi's clothing, trying to rip it off her. I punched Inosuke across the room as Masanomi grabbed Naomi in his arms and carried her outside. Hello, police! Please come here, there's been a sexual assault! I held Inosuke there until the police arrived and he was promptly arrested and taken away in cuffs. Apparently, when Naomi tried to break up with him, he thought that if he got her pregnant, then she would have no choice but to marry him, and he tried to make it forcefully happen. He may have been able to settle it with money previously, but we decided to take it to court and make sure that he got what he deserved. Since he already had the previous allegations and they deemed him to be a high-risk individual, he was given a prison sentence without parole. For the next 2 years, there would be no way for him to come out from behind those bars. Just in case, I've informed his ex-wife about this.
Because I couldn't work anymore, and I had suffered a great deal of emotional and physical damage and trauma. I desperately needed the money, and I had no choice but to settle outside of court. But this time, thanks to you and all your courageous actions, he is finally getting the punishment he should have, and I feel like justice has been served, and I am relieved from the bottom of my heart.
I was happy to hear the relief in her voice. We can only hope that this may help speed up her recovery, even if only a little bit. Naomi also suffered emotional trauma from this, and in order to change jobs, first she resigned from her current company. Getting by on the settlement fees she squeezed out of Inosuke and unemployment benefits, she is looking for her next job.
Hey, Mom. What kind of job do you think would be good for me? That's a good question. For better or for worse, when it comes to things that you like, you're able to put your all into it. That's a gift that you were born with. That's why I think you should do what you want to do and make a hobby your job. A hobby, huh? I became an editor because I liked cartoons, but my current job, it reminds me of a lot of things and it hurts too much. Well then, why don't you turn this experience into an essay? You've always had a way with words ever since you were young. What? But I'm not a good writer. That's embarrassing, especially after seeing so many works from professional authors. But you'll never know unless you try, right?
With her mother's little push and blessing, Naomi decided to write an essay about her experience this time. Then, much to her surprise, the essay went viral online to rave reviews, and she even received an offer to publish a book about it from her previous company, the major publisher. You truly never know what can happen in life. For what it's worth, the essay included my wife Miharu in it, and people heard about this cafe owner with amazing psychic powers. The cafe had been crazy busy.
I don't have any psychic powers or anything like that, though.
Well, for the average person, it's definitely a gift that you can look at someone else and see so much about them.
You know, I married you because you don't make a single fuss about any of that.
What?
Because you don't rely on me, or try to use me or show me off. You just work hard with your own strength and live honestly. That's how I knew that I could be happy with you.
Well, you're making me blush.
That being said, I'm thinking of closing the cafe just once.
What?
With all of these new customers crowding the place, I feel bad for our old regulars who have been coming for so many years. So I decided to take a break for a while.
I see. Well then, I'll request some days off of work. And why don't we go on vacation together, just the two of us?
That sounds lovely. Let's do it!
Miharu is a rare occasion and doesn't tell people about this, but one of her ancestors was apparently a very beloved shrine maiden. Apparently Miharu's maternal grandmother also had a similar gift, and yet, Miharu said that she was relieved when she realized that neither Naomi or Masanomi had the same powers.
If it were up to me, I hope that this strange power ends with my generation.
But if it goes according to the pattern, then perhaps our grandchildren?
I don't know. But if and when that time comes, I'll teach them the same thing my grandmother taught me.
Your grandma?
Do not exploit its power, do not brag about it, and do not use it to gamble. If you can follow these 3 rules, then you should be able to live in peace.
Those are all great rules to live by. I hope our family and you and I as a couple can live peacefully from now on.
Yes, I am so happy that I was able to marry you, Sasuke.
Ooh, what should we get for the children as souvenirs?
Although, I do hope you can let our children go soon enough.